We have our next speaker is another mentor of mine by the name of Michael Bernoff. And so I have a couple tattoos. The 51 is because of him teaching some different things. And so when I first met Michael Bernoff, I came to him, I was single. I had just had the business that I sold. And that was the balcony moment where I was like, well, what am I going to do now? I felt like broken. It was like I didn't have happiness. And that's when I found him. And so what happened is in that moment, working with a coach, working with him, I ended up getting clear on this. And this is what I created. And at his events, I ended up building the business. And it was like, awesome. Like, this makes me feel alive. Like, this is me living. Creating success stories is what, our team and what I'm here to do. But then it was like the next time I went to one of his events, it was like, all right, so cool. So check mark, like business is good. But I was like, I need love. I need to find love. And I had all these limiting beliefs. And so we used the same exercise. I'm going to be teaching some of the, Mike will be teaching some. I'll be teaching some, later today as well. And wrote the letter and did all the goal setting things, except this time it was for finding the love of my life. And I ended up doing that and meeting the beautiful Megan Ann Unsworth, getting married. So the point of sharing that is that this dude changed my life a lot. And it is so cool. So everyone that's been up here has had a huge part in just the success we've had with Life on Fire, and that's why we're bringing them here for you. So we're just so grateful that they're here sharing. And so Michael Bernoff, if I had to sum things up for him, he is a powerhouse with personal development. When you think about someone to create change inside you, someone to get rid of limiting beliefs, I've watched him take folks that have overcome addiction, that have overcome crazy things that have happened to them in childhood. There was one woman, her husband literally shot her, and she had to deal with that. My husband shot me. Like, that's kind of weird. And just literally in minutes, just reframe these things. So think of what Tony Robbins does times 10. And this guy is so powerful. Let's give a big Life on Fire welcome. Raise to your feet for my man, Michael Bernoff. Come on now. Yeah.
Don't forget about them. All right, everybody grab a seat. I have big Tony Robbins times 10. I need to be like 72 feet tall. So to figure this out. So how many of you are enjoying today so far? You guys enjoying today? I was sitting there backstage, actually standing, because I'm one of those people that's obsessed with what I do. I wake up, like Ty said, in the morning, and I'm obsessed with my day. How many of you are obsessed about your day? Anybody? How many of you wake up in the morning not that excited? We got to work on that. Okay. And I'm sitting there backstage, actually standing, and I'm doing that like hyper thing where I'm somewhere between a squirrel on meth. And I'm back there like this. I'm about to go on. And one of the coolest things happened. I remembered Nick was talking about all of you. It was about 3 years ago. He was at one of my events, and he just shared the story a minute ago. And he didn't know any of your names. He didn't know your social security number. He didn't know what you'd look like. He didn't know what hat you'd be wearing, nice hat. He didn't know about any of that stuff. What he knew was he wanted you to be here today in this room. I know Ty talked a little about vision and about being excited, having things you want. And he stood up on a chair, and I remember he was front row. He's one of those like absolutely amazing students. And he's sitting there front row, and next to, we had a chance to work with somebody. He picked a pro golfer in the room. So you could work with average Joe or pro golfer. And he's sitting next to a pro golfer, and he stood up and he said, I got it. I don't want to be doing what I'm doing. I want to lead people. I want to help people not only have a better quality of life, I want to help them live a life on fire. And he said it for the first time, and I heard it, and I looked at him, and I said to myself something very, very interesting that day. I said, that's a guy that's going to do it. Fast forward 3 years, you're here, he's here, and he put this event on. The reason I'm telling you that is the power of not just being at an event, getting the event inside of you. What I love about what's happened here today, and we don't need to end at that statement, is Nick said there's nothing to sell, there's nothing for anyone to buy today, there's nothing for anybody to do today. But there's a big sales pitch going on right now. And the big sales pitch is you. Are you going to sell yourself on getting this weekend? Because you've already made the ultimate decision. The decision of walking away from the crowd, deciding to be an entrepreneur. How many of you feel that was a huge day? Anybody feel that was a huge day? I don't know where you were that day, but that's a big decision most people don't make. I mean, I have a phenomenal life. I just traded in my third Escalade. I like Escalades because I tried Ferraris, I don't fit. You know, I tried a Lamborghini, that's cool, Ty's got it, I don't fit. I'm 6'6". I tried, I want to like those cars, but I feel like this in them, and they just don't work for me. And I'm on my fourth car in 3 years because I have a relationship with the guy. And he brings it down to me and he goes, hey, Michael, what mileage do you have? And I'm like, well, it's my 2014 and I have 6,000 miles on it. And the reason is I drive about a mile to work. I got a beautiful office, beautiful team, beautiful thing doing what I'm doing. And I don't have to do anything that I don't want to be doing. And that was all a dream up until years ago. My wife and I worked together. How many of you have attempted to work with somebody you love? How many of you attempted to work with someone you don't love each other anymore? Anybody? Okay, you figured that out. So my wife and I, we've been working together for a while, for the last 8 years, and I put this business together. And one of those things, as an entrepreneur, you learn to make everything into a learning experience. So it's a couple of months back, and I'm speaking at an event. Nick asked me to get in front of a mastermind group we were at, and I got in the room, and I'm typically the guy that knows exactly what to say to people. Like, I never worry about what to say. Not at all. Like, I'm always wondering, like, what am I going to say? How am I going to impact people? What can I say? How many of you feel that way? Anybody? How can I do it right? The challenge was, we do well. Like, I have a great life. We do well. We don't just have money. We have money making money. We have time. We have, like, 401ks, 801ks, trusts. Like, we've built a real business. We make millions. We're very, very good at what we do. And I'm not telling you this to impress you. I got here. Now, I'm in a room where a guy stands up and is like, yeah, I was part of taking Google public. I'm like, what am I going to say now? This one guy stands up, hey, I was one of the founders of MySpace. What am I going to say now? One guy said, I swear he said something like, I coined the phrase, who's your daddy? And I'm like, what am I going to say now? Like, how can I compete with this? So Nick decided, being Nick, because Nick's a ton of fun. How many of you would agree Nick's a ton of fun? Yeah. Because life on fire doesn't mean just today. Life on fire means having fire burn in your life all the time. So, and it doesn't mean like every minute of the day, because some days it gets squashed a little. So Nick decided to add a little bit to make the room comfortable. So not only is everybody wondering who's the tougher guy in the room, Donald Trump's here, Bill Gates is here, I'm here, wondering who's stronger, blah, blah, blah. He said you have to have a funny story of something embarrassing that happened. So not only are you waiting for your turn, you're wondering who is going to have the more embarrassing story of what's going to happen. So I'm thinking, and I'm ready to go, and I finally lucked out. And I got to the point where it was me, and they broke for lunch, and I didn't have to go. So after lunch came back, said, we're going to skip that part. But I was speaking that day. So I had about 10 minutes to get in front of the room, and I figured I might as well tell my embarrassing story. But I also want to tell it in a way that is going to align for people so you can become a more effective entrepreneur than you are right now. Now, a couple of things are going to happen during this presentation. One is you're going to realize I have very severe ADD, and I haven't finished one of my stories yet. That's going to happen. Number two, you're going to realize why I'm doing that and how that can impact your business and how you can learn how to communicate in a way that you can learn how to be very, very effective with people. The last thing in the world I do is sell. It just seems people like to give me money. How many of you would like to be able to do that? Okay? And the reason I'm saying that is it's the ability to understand and communicate with people that really makes the difference. So my wife and I, we work together. And we work hard, we work a lot of hours. Any entrepreneur that says they don't work a lot, I don't know what they're doing, and their business is probably becoming blockbuster very, very soon, okay? It's going out of business. So we work a lot, and my life changed a lot in the last, I would say, probably 4 years, 5 years, because we like to be very extreme when we do things as entrepreneurs. We like to not just jump in, we jump all the way in. Once you're a real entrepreneur, you're really in. So I went through a little bit of a, how would you say, personality, identity, like conflict thing that I was having in my life, because it wasn't because in 1 year that I got married. I have a new stepdaughter. We decided to get pregnant. Actually, I don't know if we decided. We just had a lot of fun to get pregnant in that first year. We read the book on how to determine the sex of your child. I wanted a boy, but I got really turned on first. Okay, so we had a baby. We moved, did a remodel, all in 11 months. How many of you would say that's nuts? And ran a company and doubled our business. So we didn't have a lot of time to do all the things we wanted to be doing. So I remember going out to dinner one night, and it's about a year after having a little baby. And how many of you have children? And if you don't have children, Nick and Megan on the way, you'll learn this one, okay? You don't sleep ever again for the rest of your life, okay? I don't know, I don't remember that with my parents, you never, ever, ever get to sleep again. And if you don't get the sleep, you're tired. And then even though you're passionate and you got a love life, it dwindles a little bit. So the last two speakers, one mentioned mating, one mentioned sperm. Yeah, things get a little bit less. So my wife looks at me one day and we're out to dinner at 7 o'clock at night. And she looks at me and she goes, "You see something?" I said, "What?" And I'm like ADD. I'm like, "What did I miss? What did I miss? What did I look at somebody? What did I do?" "You see something? They're going down." I go, "What's going down?" She goes, "Maya's eyes. It's about 6:30. She's going to fall asleep. We're going to be able to have a fun night." How many of you understand what fun night means? I very, very quickly stood up like this. I got it. I pay very close attention. I got it. So we go home. And we go home, baby falls asleep, everything's going as planned. I'm so excited. My wife decided to have an extra fun night. She teaches a course for women with teaching like sexuality and different things, so we made it extra fun, yeah, exactly. Extra makeup, extra less outfit, and I was totally ready to wear what I was gonna wear, nothing. And ready to go, so we did like, the whole like thing for a while and had a lot of fun. And in the middle, or I can't say in the middle, after I run into the closet, and you're hyper alert. When you're very excited, you become very, very hyper alert. And this is the challenge as an entrepreneur. We can become very hyper alert because we're excited. We notice all kinds of opportunity and everything everywhere. So I'm just in the bathroom, and as I'm in the bathroom, I'm just looking around, and I go in the closet, flip on the light, and I go, "Snake!" Because literally there was a snake in my house. Not the one you're thinking, okay? And there's a snake in my house. And it's just like slithering through the closet. So I didn't know what to do. I've never been prepared for this. It's like an entrepreneur. Like I wasn't ready for what was gonna happen. So my brain thought very quickly, what do? Wet towel, pick it up, throw it on top of the snake. And then I'm such a good salesperson, I convinced my wife that was a smart thing to do. Because doesn't it make sense? Heavy towel on top of snake, how's it gonna get out? So what are we going to do? We get on the internet. What do you do when you call a snake? Google's amazing. What do you do? Da, da, da. And you know what I did immediately? I called the firemen. Now, I have no idea what firemen and snakes have to do with each other. But they knew exactly what to do. They said, "There's a snake in your house. What kind is it?" I said, "A towel-wearing kind." Okay? I never told this story before, so hope this is helpful, what I'm about to tell you. So I threw the towel on top of it, waiting for them to come, and then I get there and we get dressed really, really quickly. I throw my shorts on, my wife puts her clothes on, and you should have seen what this looked like. She has makeup a lot on, all over the place, right? I'm wearing just my shorts, no shirt. She's wearing my t-shirt, and the guy, 3 firemen walk in. How many of you understand it looks like a movie? 3 firemen in their gear walk in, and we're sitting here like this, and we're uber excited, and we're all happy to be here, right? And my wife goes, "Look down." I go, "What?" And the guy goes, "Where's the snake?" Look down. See, I didn't put my fly out. It's amazing when you're totally in the moment a lot of times, we don't pay attention to little things. Now you're wondering why I'm telling you this and why I'm sharing this right now, and you're wondering, what does this have to do with you making money? Nothing. Okay, what it really has to do with you is that it's really about getting yourself to harness in and understand the secret of really what makes an entrepreneur work and help you be successful. Because I'm going to help you guys understand one very basic thing. You can take care of everything, and you can miss the little things that make the difference. And it's the little things that we miss in our life that most people never focus on. So I'm sitting there in that room, and I just told that little story, and I told it on a little longer because they gave me more than 30 minutes last time. And one of the things that I shared that day is I said, I think I figured out what the secret weapon is for all entrepreneurs that succeed. They've mastered something that I had to master a long time ago. And I got a room full of the most successful internet marketers in the world. One guy hired me for consulting. They did 50 million extra this last year. Do you guys understand the kind of money that is? 50 million extra. He hired me for consulting. I wish he told me that first. I would have doubled my price, okay? And I figured out, what is the secret that all of you are really looking for? And I honed in on it, and I realized it's some very, very basic things. One of those is the ability to do something that I had to figure out a long time ago. See, when I first got started as an entrepreneur, I got lucked out. I had my parents were the greatest motivators in the world because I realized in life, anything in your life is either going to change you or confirm who you are. I have a dad that's an aerospace engineer, and my mom is a teacher. Probably the least likely people to motivate you to become an entrepreneur? Except for the fact that I woke up every day and I loved my parents, but I didn't want to be like them. Can you respect and love people but not want to be like them? Can we love our friends and not be pissed off and bothered because they want to waste our time and we want to make money, we want to help people build our business? So my whole life, I've always wanted more. I truly believe when I first saw Nick talk about life on fire, it reminded me of my own life. I have felt my entire life like there was this little itty-bitty flame inside of me. And sometimes it would burn really, really bright and I'd like want to go for things. And other times it kind of went out. If any of you have played sports before, it was the beginning of the season. We want to win every game and everything to be perfect, and we totally want to win, and we want to be very, very, very successful at what it is we do. So what happened is I would burn really, really bright, and then something would come along, and it would kind of go out. How many of you can relate to this metaphorically? See, when I was sitting there in front of that room of the people, I realized that the secret ingredient for all of us is the ability to pay attention to the things that really matter. See, when Nick said we helped him change his life, really what it is, I pointed out some very, very obvious things that make a big difference. See, I've always wanted more. The challenge was that I had a big challenge growing up, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this. And the first thing I'm going to tell you is it's truly not your fault. And the reason I'm going to tell you it's not your fault, because how many of you feel being an entrepreneur is more challenging than it should be? Anybody? Just raise your hands. And how many of you find it really, really easy? Okay, I would say bullshit if you didn't find it challenging. Are you allowed to curse here? Oh, well, I did. Okay. Now, the reason I'm saying this and why this is so urgent for you guys to notice, and I know let the other two speakers tell stories and get you guys to laugh. I want to get really real with you guys right now and have a little fun at the same time, is that in order to allow yourself to get where it is you want to go, you got to kind of check sometimes the origins of how this stuff happened. So for me, I always wanted to be more. The challenge is I had a big problem growing up. Like, I really wish I had a really cool story. It would be so fun if I got up here today and I told you, like, yeah, when I was a kid growing up, my parents left me in Harlem for 4 months and they never came back. And I grew up in a crack den and I finally learned to get one of the meth dealers to finally get me to succeed. And they took me to a library and I got rich and I finally ran into this and that. How many of you would say that's a really cool story? Or it would be really cool if Donald Trump was you're not supposed to say Donald Trump, but if Donald Trump was my dad. How many of you realize that would be a really cool meal ticket, am I right? So I have a bigger challenge, and this is where you and I relate, and this is really the killer of entrepreneurism, and I'm going to show you how to flip out of this today to really break this. I grew up with one of the biggest challenges I found out in the last probably 50 or 60 years that every one of you face on a regular basis, and what it is that I grew up in a very, very interesting era in time. And back in the 20s or 30s, they thought this was a really, really great idea. It was this idea of people are uncomfortable. We just had the World War I, World War II, the Great Depression. We've got to find a way to make people comfortable. So they invented this concept. They said, I think I have the answer. The secret to successful people is let's make them comfortable and develop a community called the middle class. Now, how many of you grew up lower, middle, or upper middle class? Raise your hands. Let me see them high. Here's the challenge of middle class. You're there. Where are you folks? You're where? You're there. As a middle class person, it doesn't exist anymore, so don't worry if you have kids. They don't have to wind up there because it's really like lower and upper, and that's it. But growing up middle class, like most of us did, the challenge with that is that you're kind of stuck because you don't actually have to do anything. It truly changed the motivation that's built into all people. Everything Ty was talking about earlier about what motivates us, you don't have to actually do anything because you have enough of a 401k, you have enough of an 805b, you have 2 pairs of shoes, you don't have to do anything. You come off a boat from Poland or Russia with nothing, you're instantly motivated. So I grew up this way. And if you guys can connect to this, what happened is that the challenge that I ran into is that I had that little flame burning that said I wanted more, but everybody around me wasn't making things happen. That's the importance of being in a group like this. That's the importance of mentorship. That's the importance of what Nick did when he came to my event. He didn't just come to my event once. He went to every event I had 5 times for 2 years straight. Do you guys understand? That's called committed. That's called what, folks? Committed. And you guys started the commitment process being here. But I'm also going to tell you that just being here today and just committing to this one time, one thing, it's cute and all, but it's safe here. And the reason it's safe is because everybody here is on the same page, we all think the same way, we're all doing the same thing, but it's really what happens, my concern and Nick's concern, and Dr. Matt's concern and everybody else's, what happens on Sunday and Monday. Because how many of you realize Monday is called reality? Everybody understand that? You can get fired up here, but how many of you want to bring the fire home? Anybody interested in bringing the fire home? That's the secret. So back to my story, and maybe you can relate to this, and I'm going to just kind of share this with you right now to make certain that you guys pay attention, is one very simple thing. I wanted more, but for some reason my environment wasn't allowing me to make it happen. So what do? What do you do in that situation? What do you do when you want more? The thing is, you go for it. So I remember one of the greatest salespeople I ever saw in my life was my mom. My mom's a great saleswoman, never done sales, but I would see really nice things. Like, is anyone here from New Jersey? Yeah, hell yeah, Bon Jovi and shit. Yeah, okay, cool. Now, what's interesting is I'm from New Jersey, and I would drive by the Short Hills Mall, and I'd say, Mom, check out those Mercedes. You know what she'd say? Not for people like us. And was she right? Yes, because in my hometown, people did not have cars like that. So I believed her. Why did I believe my mom? Because growing up, you're supposed to believe your parents. So I did. So I remember how emotional these experiences happen and how they really capsize us in our life. So I remember school one day, and it's these experiences we have that literally make the difference in our life. And one of those experiences I had was I walked into gym class one day, and they said in gym class, today is the presidential physical, how many of you remember this? Fitness test. And I'm thinking, Ronald Reagan's showing up? This is going to be great. What are we going to do? Jelly beans. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be so cool. And I get there, and it's my gym teacher. That was it. They said, what we're going to do today is prove how strong we are. But they asked us to do something we've never done before. So they lined up all the kids in alphabetical order. It went Anderson, and I'm very impatient because my last name is Bernoff, so I'm always like the second to go. So it goes Anderson, and then it goes Bernoff. Go do a pull-up. And I walk up to the pull-up bar, one hand, two hand. And I've never done a pull-up in my life. How good are we at things we've never done before? We're not really good. So I go to do a pull-up, and as I go to do one, and I go to pull, I attempt to use my arms. How many of you are into fitness here? Anybody? What happens is, if you attempt to pull yourself with your arms, is that what does a pull-up? No, it's your core. But I'm attempting to do it. And then I remember the teacher very quickly made a statement. They said, Michael, hey, and for everyone else in the class, if you're not able to do a pull-up, you can just hang out there because you're incapable. So I hung there, turned bright red, got off, sat back down in my seat, and I hypnotized myself. I am incapable of doing pull-ups. I am incapable of doing pull-ups. My buddy walks up. His name is Courtney, and if you're a boy named Courtney, you're tough. Okay, you have to be, especially if you're 5'2" in senior year of high school. And he gets up there, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 20. And in that day, I decided something very interesting. He can, I can't. And I built that day the first memory of what I call my box. And I put up walls around myself, and I put a box, and I separated myself. They can, I can't. And you don't think you do this, but we all do this intelligently. Even at our success level in business, I still see other people, and I say, that's for them, this is for me. How many of you have done that this week? Anybody? How many of you realize you do that today? How many of you realize you watch Dr. Matt get up here, he shares the funniest thing in the world, go, he can, I can't. And we do this all the time for ourselves. So for years, I did what a lot of us do. I lived a life of a lie. I said I wanted more, but I didn't do anything about it. I had a chance opportunity one day that I was valeting cars, I was parking cars, most of you know my story, and I was parking cars, and every week I would see this one guy pull up in a really, really fancy Bentley. And he always pulled up, and I said, how does a guy get a car like that? So I asked an interesting question to one of the other valets, because you might as well ask somebody in your same income class how to get ahead. And he said, I mean, how ridiculous was that, right? And he said something to me that day is, why don't you ask? So the guy pulls around. I was never shy. And he pulls around and he goes, hey, how you doing, Michael? I said, great. I said, how you doing, Maurice? He says, awesome. I said, how do you get a car like that? He said, do you really want to know, or are you just asking? I said, no, I really want to know. And he said, we'll see. See, for a lot of us, we just want to see it. We want to talk about it, but we don't want to do anything about it. He challenged me the next day. We met, and it was the first time I got into goal setting. He showed me a bunch of different things, and he worked with me for about a year. And over the course of that year, he shared with me about a dozen things that made a major difference in my life. And what happened was I lived my life as a lie. And you know what I realized about most entrepreneurs? We mess our lives up because we act like things are okay when they're not. Now, what's funny is we pretend it's great when it's not. What's the benefit if somebody's handing out money and you act like you don't need it? Are they going to give you any? How many of you understand if you act like everything's great, but it's not great, you don't win? So I acted like everything was great. I was in a relationship at that point in my life where I was miserable. I told everybody, oh man, this is the greatest apartment in the world, man. I can go from my bed to my desk in 10 seconds. This thing is awesome. Look at this commute. Ba-boom, look at that. It's like 300 square feet. It's a mess. I'm about 40 pounds overweight. I'm not taking care of my life. I'm acting like things are good. And my life is like a roller coaster. I'd have a month where I make $10,000, a month make $500, a month make 20 grand, a month make nothing for 3 months. And I couldn't figure out how to get off the roller coaster until my mentor pulled me aside and he shared with me about a dozen things. And I'm going to tell you what they are right now because I figure in 7 minutes you should learn 12 things. And I attempted to pull them off. And I did what a lot of us do, like when you come to an event like this, attempted to balance. You're getting your notebook, you really think I'm going to teach you 12 things in 7 minutes? I talk fast, but not that fast, okay? And I started balancing all of this stuff out of what I was going to do, but I waited until something happened. See, I live my life putting plans together. How many of you got a great plan at home you're still not doing? Anybody have one? How many of you got a marketing plan you have not figured out how to actually get yourself to start? Anybody? How many of you can't wait to make another funnel? Anybody? How many of you would be better off like funneling a beer than making a funnel? Am I right? Okay. We can't get ourselves to do these things, and that's our challenge. So what's unique is we talked about the Navy SEALs a bit ago, and I read. I was reading a book recently on it. It was really interesting. It was called Damn Few or something like that. Good book, Damn Few. And it was a Navy SEALs book. And he started teaching the technique. I go, that is the same thing I do. But I'm going to take credit for it, not take it away from the SEALs. Now, I'm just kidding. It was theirs. And what the technique was is really simple. He said most entrepreneurs, most people in life, they all want a plan. They come to an event like this and they say, what do I need to do? The challenge is every one of you already know what you need to do. If I came to your house right now, could I find a workout you're not doing maybe? Could I find a DVD that you're not using? Could I find something Nick shared with you already that you didn't implement? Anybody? And the reason why is most of us want a plan, but none of us want to do the work. So one of the things that I've been teaching for years is that if you could get yourself to not have a plan, you'll be better off. So here's the way my program works. It's very simple. My program for you in life. First thing you have to do is you've got to get yourself to take action. What's the first thing you got to do? Take action. So what I'm going to tell you to do is anything you learned today, how many of you learned something today? Anybody? How many of you learned by not learning? My man was funny earlier, am I correct? How many of you think you should make someone laugh tonight? How many of you think you should meet someone new tonight? Anybody? How many of you think when you step on the glass, don't get it into your foot? If you get a chance later, ask Nick about his first board break. I was involved in it. His pinky's still not working right, okay? He didn't know how to do it the first time, but once he learned how to do it, it's easy now. So the key is getting yourself to take action. To take what? Action. Once you're going, this is interesting because I'm not a doctor and I failed Psych 101 3 times, but I charge more than any therapist in the world for work, okay? And I don't have a degree and they always want to take my license away, but I don't have one, but I keep on changing people's lives. So what happened was I realized that when you're moving, dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin start going in your brain. So when I was a kid, I used to say, why am I so creative when I'm running? I think in jogging shorts, they should put like paper and pens. This is before they had cell phones. Because how many of you have done that? You're out for a walk. You come up with great ideas. Because you're moving. You can't get creative sitting still. That's why it's great while you're here, but what matters is the hallway. What matters is after the event. What matters is mentorship. What matters is moving forward. What matters is doing things to the right level. So once you're moving, then your next objective as an entrepreneur is, how do I sustain momentum? Sustain what, folks? It's momentum. It doesn't say life on fire today for the next 5 minutes. It says life. Does it say day on fire? Does it say week on fire? Say month on fire, decade on fire. It basically says destiny on fire. Do you understand that? It's your entire life if you want to make this work, or you can make it about today. So my belief is if you can take action, create momentum, and then as soon as you have momentum, then put a plan together. The reason I wait to put the plan together is you don't really learn anything until you're moving. You don't know what it's going to be like. I don't care how good your funnel is, practice it. Go screw it up. Go mess up some leads. Go call a few people and sell them something. How many of you have heard of Sam Adams beer? Anybody? Yeah. How many of you ever drank one? I don't drink, but what's interesting about Sam Adams beer is that when the guy put it together, the first thing he did, and I read this in was it Ready, Fire, Aim, or Ready, Start, Aim, or just get your shit together, aim, okay? And he said the very interesting thing. He said that when the guy first made the beer, he didn't worry about growing the company. He just wanted to sell the first 12-pack. And after he sold a couple of kegs, he realized what people wanted. Then he made the marketing plan. The key for most of us, I promise, if you get started, you'll make an extra $2,000 to $5,000 to $7,000 in the next month. How many of you would love to do that? I don't care how much you're making already. How many of you believe that if you could just go to sushi more often, you'd be happier? Okay? It takes an extra $2,000 to $3,000. So a month, especially if you go to Sushi Roku out here. It's just really good and really expensive. Okay? So the key is once you get that, then you put yourself in a position that when you come back to this again, you work with Nick, you do something, you put yourself in a very unique position is you're already a moving person. See, what I forgot to tell you earlier is that Nick was already moving when he stood up on that chair. He literally was moving on the chair. But he'd already been in business, he was going. And when you hand an idea to somebody who's already going, they can run with it. Most of us just have to get moving. So I'm sitting there in my life, and I'm living my life of what I call a lie. I'm not where I want to be. Big breakthrough moment for me is when I sat down with my mentor and he said, there's about a dozen things you need to do. It wasn't until I uncomplicated those dozen, and for 90 days, I found consistency. How many of you, if you just had consistency, would be thrilled? Anybody? How many of you, once you get consistency, it takes down that worry. It takes down that fear. I tell a lot of you got dreams. When you're walking through and you're walking across tonight and you're walking across that glass, you're breaking that board, you should be breaking that for consistency. You should be breaking that for being a person that has momentum on a regular basis. Because I promise you, you'll be more comfortable in your life. How many of you feel if you were more comfortable, things would be better? Anybody? Now, what I mean by comfortable, and let me explain what I mean by that so you guys understand what I mean is, if you had an extra, guys say to me all the time, and girls say, if I just made 7 figures, if I just made 6 figures, let me recondition this in your brain. Take all your expenses, take all of your bills, take all the cool trips you want to go on, take all the things you want to do, eliminate the extra cars you don't need yet, eliminate the extra houses you don't need yet, and just add an extra 5 to 10 grand a month coming in. How many of you feel if all your bills were paid and money was going into the stock market and it was going into your real estate and your investment and you had an extra 5 to 10 to 15 grand a month, how many of you would be thrilled? We have to start from here. One of the things my mentors taught me is that don't go here, build stability. And once you have stability and you could stand on stability of I'm in a good place, the decisions you make will be absolutely amazing. See, years ago, I couldn't afford a building just even to rent. Last week, we met with a group and we're going to be buying a building. Do you understand? It took a little time, but we had to get stability. We had to get to we knew what was happening. So here's what my mentor shared to me, and this was the biggest thing of all, and I'll end it up with this, and this is really the big defining thing that really allowed me to, and remember, I didn't say a person, I said one of my mentors. What did I say, folks? Mentor. And he's still one of my mentors to this day. And what's interesting about it is I do better than he does, but he's still one of my mentors because he does better in this one particular area. He can get across to me. What can he do, guys? And I'm very hard, ask my wife, I'm very hard to get across to, okay? And he said this very simple thing to me. He said, which of those 12 things are the most important? And here's what they are. The first secret to getting where you want to go is you're going to have to make a decision. And the simple decision is this, that you're not where it is that you want to be. How many of you understand if you're okay with where you're at, you'll stay here the rest of your life? How many of you understand that? You need to decide that you're not where you want to be. The second you've decided to do that, how do you get yourself to take consistent momentum in your life? How do you get yourself to take action? And the third thing is really the most important of all is how do you change your perceptions? See, what's unique about this is we could change the way things are. You could change the way you see things. I had a client the other day on the phone, maybe some of you were on this phone call that we did, and a guy basically said, point blank, I realize I'm over my time, and he point blank said that he just got back from the doctor and he had chronic upside down backflip anxiety. I said, what does that mean? He said, like some crazy determined thing. I said, what does that mean? He goes, I'm going to have anxiety attacks the rest of my life. I said, if you believe that, you can't change. I said, how else do you want to look at it? He said, well, that's the doctor said I have. I have chronic anxiety. I don't even know what it is. I said, do you have chronic anxiety or you haven't found a way to communicate with yourself differently? How many of you realize that it's not that you're stuck, it's not that you haven't figured out to get to the next level? There's some things about yourself that you don't know yet. There's some things you don't understand. What's so cool about all of this is, being an entrepreneur, the second you made that decision to become one, you stepped into an elite class of people. And what that elite class of people is this. You've decided not only do you want more, you decided to make your life into more. So the whole idea of Life on Fire is about getting that flame to burn. It's about getting the most out of this weekend. It's about getting the most out of your life. It's about making decisions that allow yourself to do things different. It's about letting people like Nick assist you. How many of you think it's really cool that I showed him a couple things and he did this? How many of you guys realize that impressive? Is that impressive? Here's the best part. You guys can step up and do that as well. But the question is, how are you going to see things? So I'm going to leave you with this last little thing, and here it goes. It's very, very simple. I want you to imagine for a second, close your eyes. Close your eyes. You're going to need this later for your little break. Sit back in your chair. It'll take less than 1 minute. I want you to imagine that in front of you is a mirror. Say it out loud. What's in front of you? A what? Mirror. In that mirror is obviously who? You. But it's not you today. It's you 2 years from now. The difference between you today and you 2 years from now is you look even younger. The reason you look younger is you're doing what you want to be doing. You have been part of Life on Fire. You've been part of the community. This isn't your first rodeo. Your business is flourishing. You're doing what I said. You're making an extra $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month. How do you feel about yourself when you're making a little extra money? Just scream out a word. How do you feel? And your body looks better. You could tell your sex life looks better because your skin looks better. Do you know they two go together? You could tell your intimacy's better. You feel more comfortable with yourself. And you're about 5 feet away from that mirror. And I want you just to imagine you walked about a foot closer to that mirror. You could feel it a little bit closer. You can feel it a little bit closer. And imagine you moved another foot closer and you could just reach out. You're like an arm's length away of grabbing what you want. What if what you learn in the next 2 days, day and a half, including Monday and Tuesday, getting back to your regular life, what if that little bit that you learn allows you to become the person you see in the mirror? What if the little things say, it just takes you 18 months to have what it is you want? Because the alternative is right behind you. And I want you to imagine right behind you is also a mirror, but it's you 2 years from now doing the same thing you're doing today. My question is, did you come here this weekend to move forward? Did you come to this event to stay where you're at? Did you come to this event to get excited? Or did you come here to do something different? So I'm not going to leave you with a little rah-rah. I'm not going to leave you with any of that. I'm going to leave you with this last little thought. If you want to become that person, you already are that person. The question is, are you going to take the 3 steps? In the 3 very simple steps. Decide you're not where you want to be. Learn how to motivate yourself. Keep attention. Keep focused. And it all starts now. Appreciate you all, and make it happen.